Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Savvy Psychologist. I'm your host, Dr. Ellen Hendrickson, and every week I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. Now, we all do things we know we shouldn't. Eat that party-sized bag of M&Ms when we're stressed, have just one more drink, sleep with our ex, or get a tattoo of the KFC Double Down sandwich. And this actually happened, and you can check out a link in the show notes. Now, there is even an entire city built on the knowledge that we will do stupid things. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So today, we'll talk about 3 reasons why, even as our conscience or our common sense screams no, we watch ourselves do things we know we'll regret. And reason number 1 is 2 kinds of pleasure. From a 2007 paper in the journal Psychopharmacology comes the idea that there are actually 2 types of pleasure. Now, the first type is how we usually think of pleasure, a state of happy satisfaction. For example, we get this kind of pleasure from a good meal, sex and its afterglow, or from that first sip when we're really, really thirsty. And we'll call this pleasure liking. But it turns out there's a second kind of pleasure, the pleasure of pursuing something, excitement, anticipation, seduction, or feeling powerful as you know you got this. And we'll call this pleasure wanting. So in other words, we usually think of liking pleasure as Julia Roberts in Eat, Pray, Love. Falling in love, eating gelato, that feeling of satisfaction, relaxation, and feeling loved and safe. But the wanting pleasure is more like Vince Vaughn in Swingers. It's the thrill of the chase and the tingling of desire. And it's this second kind of pleasure, the thrill of the chase, that helps us do so many stupid things. Even when we know there will be no liking pleasure and will regret it in the morning, we do it anyway. The starkest example of this is drug use. Cocaine and methamphetamine in particular are notorious for short-circuiting the dopamine system in the brain, which is heavily involved in wanting. And over time, in people with the right, or wrong as it were, combination of predisposition and experience, drug use moves from being voluntary and occasional to being irresistibly compulsive. That wanting system creates an irresistible craving that makes those addicted seek out hit after hit, even if it makes them feel sick or costs them their health and relationships. Now, dopamine also plays a role in non-drug compulsive behaviors or stupid things like gambling away our paycheck, binge eating, or sexual addiction. Even when you know you'll hate yourself later, that wanting can be so strong, it's undeniable. Reason number 2, deprivation, suppression, and obsession. Now, anyone who's ever been on a diet knows the effect of deprivation. It not only makes us miserable, it makes us obsessed. In the famous 1945 Minnesota starvation experiment, which was run to determine the best famine relief practices after World War II, healthy volunteers were semi-starved for 6 months on a diet of about 1,500 calories a day. And the result? Not only were they apathetic, irritable, and exhausted, not to mention weak and emaciated, they also became obsessed with food. The participants thought about food 24/7. They obsessively read cookbooks and stared at pictures of food. And in fact, in an interview with one of the participants 60 years later, he said, food became the one central and only thing really in one's life. I mean, if you went to a movie, you weren't particularly interested in the love scenes, but you noticed every time they ate and what they ate. Now, even after the study was over and they were once again at a healthy weight, the participants reported feeling so hungry they couldn't eat enough. Even after the study, they ate an average of 5,000 calories a day, sometimes topping out at over 10,000 calories. So what does this mean for self-imposed deprivation? Well, if you're tough on yourself and aim for some serious deprivation, cut out all sugar, drastically curb spending, exercise excessively, or stick to an overly strict diet, sudden deprivation might make you crave that forbidden fruit. But wait, it gets worse. When you try to suppress the craving, it gets stronger. Why? Well, suppression is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Not only are the thoughts right below the surface, but once the effort wears you down, they surge back up with a vengeance, which leads to doing the exact thing you were trying not to do. And then, once we slip, it leads to reason number 3, the what the hell effect. So once we accidentally on purpose eat the remains of our kid's abandoned cookie, the what the hell effect kicks in, which is the bursting of the inhibitional dam just because it sprung a little leak. So then a bite leads to a whole cookie because, well, we've ruined things already, so we might as well enjoy ourselves, right? Then a cookie leads to a sleeve, and we end up with a stomachache and a bad case of self-loathing. And while food is the classic example, anything we deprive ourselves of in the name of self-improvement, screen time, spending, sugar, invites the what the hell effect. Even a little bit of criminal behavior can snowball, like, I got away with stealing that pack of gum, I might as well try for the genes. In short, we aim for cold turkey, only to end up going whole hog. To wrap up, there are myriad reasons we do stupid things, whether it's small, like sending angry emails, or big, like having an affair. And though none of the reasons might explain that double down sandwich tattoo, I'm not sure anything could. If you'd like to know more about the what the hell effect, check out How to Stop Dieting from the archives. And if you learned something from today's episode, please let me know by liking on Facebook, subscribing to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, or subscribing to the biweekly newsletter at quickanddirtytips.com/newsletters. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Dr. Ellen Hendrickson, and next week on the podcast, since it is the middle of cold and flu season, we'll answer the question, is depression contagious? And the answer might surprise you. The week after that, we'll have a 100th episode special, but in the meantime, transcripts for this and every other episode, as well as links to the studies I mentioned, are always available on quickanddirtytips.com/savvy-psychologist. The Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and doesn't substitute for mental health care from a licensed professional. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week for a happier, healthier mind.